$1,000, whichever is less, I think. You do not, rule number 1, do not pay for any part of the work that isn't done. Don't pay for it. If they say, well, I need to get paid for the carpet because it's already, I've ordered it and I've got it in storage, right? Well, that carpet isn't any good to you in storage. Now, you can work out an agreement where you pay them a certain amount as long as you have access to the storage and that storage facility is under your control, right? Because he can turn around and use that carpet on another job and you'd not be the wiser.
And
right?
what about rough materials?
Same, all the same thing. All that whole schedule of values back there, for this project there was probably about 8 sheets that looked like that.
What's your take on, having a contractor, they're going to Home Depot to buy materials and you put those materials on your card and they get there, they pick them up, you've ordered them, they're there to pick them up, Home Depot calls you, hey, can I have your credit card? So-and-so's here to pick up those materials.
Well,
Do you have a card on file?
Yeah.
And you pay for the materials up front, they're coming back. You haven't paid them for anything else. They bring them back to the house and start working with those materials.
You can do that because the materials are now in your possession.
Right, okay.
And under your roof and
So
in
as
your
long as you
control.
have access to those materials, you haven't paid them for any type of work yet, is what you're saying.
Right, you just
Okay.
pay for the materials. But I'd be careful about that because, and I've seen this happen, where the contractor will say, oh shoot, for this other job I need these 2x8s. I need these really bad. Here, just put them in the truck. And
Well, that's why I have them go through when I talk to them. Like, what are they exactly? Where are they buying?
yeah,
And I make sure it adds up, and then I ask for the receipt
yeah,
at the end, obviously, to make sure that number is teed up with.
yeah.
And it's
You
not
have
like-
to have your contract, your understanding about that beforehand. And I would want to have some way of accounting for that.
Yeah,
And you put the onus on them
right.
to provide you that.
Got it. Okay.
You're not there to finance the job for the contractor.
Yeah, so that's.
They're supposed to be big boys and girls.
Right.
You're not a bank. They're providing you a service with goods and materials. They're supposed to be able to do it.
Well, this is me acting as the
Owner,
builder.
Yeah, owner builder. What were
Right,
you
right.
saying?
So with a general contractor, if you tell them when you make the contract up front that you're only gonna pay the 10% and then you're gonna work with the schedule, will they,
Oh,
are they like generally willing to work that way?
they have to. That's the law.
Can we go into,
If they try to do anything else, you report them to the or you just say goodbye.
Yeah, yeah.
See you later. It's been swell wasting my time with you.
that's a nice one, I've never heard that one, that's really.
What were you going to say?
Would it be pertinent to go into the state legislature and see the real estate laws so that you can say, it's this number, it's
No.
this date,
Oh.
this is what it says?
All
Or
right.
just say, thank you, goodbye, you wasted.
Yeah, I would go with the latter myself.
Yeah.
What about working with architects? Like, they want a retainer up front.
Yeah.
Like, ask them, where are we? How much of my money have we spent?
Well,
how do you
that's.
work with
I'm not here to
architects?
talk about that, but they're expensive.
But
I
how
often
do you-
ask for retainers on projects.
how
I will do
you
that.
track the architect's progress? Like, is there a way like this to
Well,
track them?
every time I bill a client, I have the invoice and then I have my billing log, which is my spreadsheet of the date and the hours I spent on that, so they can see, okay, if she's charging me for 20 hours of work here, there are the 20 hours.
But what about for the architect's time?
Well, that would be the same for an architect. I bill like an architect or like an attorney. That's how I do it. But yeah, you should ask for what's your backup. Okay, so I haven't covered this, and we should be done by now. But I just want to say something about getting bids.
Yes, please.
It's really important to be able to compare the bids you get and to be able to compare apples to apples. So the key to that is providing them with a scope of work to bid on that's consistent. And then even going further and saying, here's the bid form. And say, break down your bid. Say you want them to,
So that's it.
yeah.
So you provide them the form, they fill it out.
Sometimes
and give it back to
you can do that.
Okay.
Say you want to convert your garage into habitable space. So if you ask contractor A, give me a bid to convert my garage into habitable space, and you ask contractor B the same thing, contractor B says, well, what do you want in this? How do you want this to look? What do you want the finishes to be? Do you want a solid core door? Do you want a hollow door? Do you want windows? What do you want? So that's the importance of a drawing. That's why the drawing is important, because it draws a picture of what you want. And then in commercial work, there is a scope of work. Often it's contained right on the drawings, or it's within the project manual. Let's take it as if it's in the on the drawings. The scope of work is included on the drawings. You then want to ask your contractor. He can look at those drawings and say it's going to cost $150,000 to do this. Well, how did you get to that number? What are you charging for the concrete? What are you charging for the windows? What are you charging for this? What are you charging for that? And that way, and what is your labor charge? That way, if everyone did it the same, you can honestly compare bids, right? Part of when I worked for Public Works, one of the things I would do when I would get a project to be the inspector of record on, you had a question. Before I go off, what was your question?
Yeah, I had a question about insurance and bonds, and what the insurance should be, and how big of a project would require a bond.
I have to pay a bond just to be licensed.
Oh, so they all have bonds if you're licensed?
They should be bonded professionals. That's something you can determine.
When they pick out their license, does it show how much they're bonded for on the?
It just says if you look up their license on the California License Board, it says whether they're bonded or not.
Does it say for how much?
I'm not sure. I don't recall exactly.
So they don't have to have a bond?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so if they don't have a bond, then they can't practice?
But in order for me to keep my license, I need to have a bond. It's only, I think mine is only like a $15,000 bond. But you can ask, say as an owner, you can say I want a performance bond and I want a payment bond. So I know you're paying your subcontractors, and your performance bond is you saying, I will perform. Now those bonds aren't free. Those cost money. But what that gives you as the owner, somebody to go back to if the contractor skates. And if you wanna see them get a reaction, just tell them, I gave your bonding company a call. They don't like that at all. I did that one time on a job and, oh lordy.
So that's even for small jobs?
Probably, I mean, it's gonna be expensive, it's gonna add a lot of cost to the project. It's up to you.
Buy and sell and beware. I had a realtor work with me, he sold a duplex across the street 3 years before. And then I knew mine was gonna go up to auction because I couldn't pay the property taxes. And I got him to read out to me why the bids were such. And I says, you show me that document. And he says, I will research that. And he says, you're right, that's not valid, that's not up to date. And the information that they gave, I says, but that's dated. And you need to update and such like that. So what he thought was the best thing to project to me to do ended up with me asking the right question, him giving the right answer, and he and I just determining we're not going that way. And then there was a part in the bid, and I says no, because this money, back taxes need to be paid, so if something happened, I need that to be paid. So you have to increase their bid. And he understood, and that helped determine who finally bought the place.
Okay,
Bids are important.
I'm not sure I totally followed all that, but,
This is an auction for
Yeah.
a lien.
well, let me wrap up here real quick. One of the things you need to do, and this is really important, is that say on this project, this particular payment application, they were asking for, what were they asking for? Current, $165,000, okay? And further on in this breakdown, you'll see, or I would see, where that $165,000 would go into, because it would all have to add up at the bottom of the page. So now I know which contractors participated in this bill that came to me this month. So now I'm gonna say to the contractor, okay, great, but I need a lien release for that amount of money and from those subcontractors before I give you this money. That's them saying, we're releasing all rights to liening this property for this amount of money. That's very, very important. Okay. Some resources. The Construction Specification Institute, CSI. That's not crime scene investigation. They write the book on specifications and construction documents. They work closely with the AIA, also American Institute of Architects. So if you go to their website, there's a lot of information there. Of course, the California State Contractors License Board, absolutely, they've got documents about what to know about hiring a contractor. Did you get your question answered? All right, okay. And consensus docs. That's also a good reference or resource.
I have a question. What
Sure.
what are the requirements to become a general contractor?
You have to show that you've had experience, either in charge of a project. You have to have references, and you have to take a test.
But what if he did, like he was saying, he did his home building project, and can that serve as a,
Sure.
and then you take the test, now you're a GC? If you get people.
Well, if it's enough.
Wow, That easy?
It's not that
No,
difficult.
yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
It's not that difficult.
It's a good idea to get, to have anyways. My dad had his, he never used it, but just to have it, cause, I can't remember, there's certain benefits you get buying material
Oh, yeah,
from certain,
discounts.
companies, so
Yeah.
we were buying, like, when we were turning, we were turning, apartment buildings, there was a 16-unit building in Oakland, and we'd go to, you know, Sincere, and you'd have to buy, you know, 16 countertops. I mean, if you were able to provide a contractor's license or
You
show
did.
valid, they discounted it like 30%. Yeah, same thing
Yeah.
with the floors.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Home
so-
Depot even gives contractors a
yeah,
break.
they'll give you guys a discount. I mean, that's the perk of having it. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gave me an idea. Another goal.
Yeah. They have classes in our building. You can get it through the
Telegraph or
no, the
Edgewater?
one in at Edgewater. So there's a class that shows they're not they just rent out some of the vacant space and they use that, and they'll have, I don't know, once every other month classes to get your contractor's license. I'll let you know in the next few
Okay.
days. Maybe we do that.
All right.
Yeah, I had a licensed, I decided to get my license when I was working for the forensic architect, because as an expert, it just adds some credibility. I was testifying in an arbitration the other day, and the guy who who my client was suing was a contractor. Well, what kind of experience have you had getting under houses and doing this stuff, building this stuff? And I said, no, I've never carried a bag. I've just gone to school and been an inspector for 30 years,
Mhm.
you know. But, you know, it's especially as a woman, that's what they're going to ask me,
Oh, yeah.
you know. Idiot. Anyway,
This is how
He's a real
extreme
jerk.
it can be when you're not paying attention. Someone came before the zoning department of the city of San
I'll call you
Fernando.
tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
She'd
Thank
already
you for the support.
hey,
finished a
Mike, nice
basement.
to meet you.
Nice to
see you again.
Nice to see you again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
He
Thanks, you
finished
guys.
a basement,
Nice to meet you.
and
Nice to see
the
you.
ceiling was 6 feet high. And
Uh-oh.
I says, you know, you can sell this, and then somebody doesn't know. And I went months later, not realizing I went by that property. I said, so it looks pretty nice, and we had a talk. He says, oh yes, by the way, the other building